The U.S. and Russia created the International Space Station and have worked together for decades to keep it in orbit. But since the start of Russia's war on Ukraine, that collaboration has become increasingly tense. Zhanna Malekos Smith is a senior associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies and an assistant professor at West Point. Zhanna, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mimi. Pleasure to be here.
So right now, I understand there are 4 Americans and 3 Russian cosmonauts on board the International Space Station. How are they all getting along right now?
So when we look at conflict playing out here on Earth and then the cooperation aboard the International Space Station, it's important to keep our shared space history in mind. Since 1998, the International Space Station, the ISS, has been praised as a model example of international cooperation. There are so many hopes pinned on states coming together and collaborating in outer space aboard the station. And what's striking to note is that this is not the first time that conflict on Earth has impacted to an extent relations aboard the International Space Station. And in 2014, Russia's annexation of Crimea, we saw the Obama administration place economic sanctions on Russia, impacting its aerospace program. And in response to that, we saw that cooperation was still able to endure on the International Space Station, despite Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the economic sanctions that the Biden administration placed as a consequence on Russia's aerospace program, and the ensuing fiery political tweets exchanged between Russia's director of the space program, Roscosmos, and several U.S. space leaders. Cooperation has still managed.
I was going to ask you about that because obviously Russia's not happy about the sanctions, and those Russian leaders have threatened to leave the International Space Station. So logistically, is that something Russia can even do?
From the very beginning, the very design, the physical system of the International Space Station, it was designed to be interdependent collaboration, where you have the Russian module, the segment of the station, controlling for navigation and altitude adjustment, and then you have the United States segment, providing, to an extent, along with other allies and partners, the electrical power for the International Space Station. It's a modular designed International Space Station to help assuage concerns by the public that Russia may quit the International Space Station. NASA put out a statement announcing that the space station was designed to not be disassembled. And that's important to bear in mind. The current interdependence between each segment of the station, because of its modular design, prevents the U.S. orbital segment and the Russian segment from operating independently. However, in March, RIA Novosti and Russia's space agency Roscosmos put out a rather provocative, sardonic musical video showing the Russian segment of the International Space Station somehow decoupling from the International Space Station and floating away. And the Russian segment is not independently powered, but in this musical video example showing that, it did raise a few eyebrows and some concerns by media outlets that this was indicative of Russia's intent to separate itself from the International Space Station.
Well, you know, besides the design itself, Zhanna, Russia's invested a lot of money and resources into that space station. So I would think that's enough to keep them tied to the program.
Yes, if follow the space money, that is also an important consideration here. Russia has steadily invested in the infrastructure of the space station. And if we look at the transition report that NASA just published in January 2022, indicating which of the International Space Agency partners had completed their technical analyses for the lifespan of the International Space Station, we see that NASA, the Canadian Space Agency, Japan Space Agency, and the European Space Agency have completed their technical analyses through 2028. However, going back to your point, Mimi, Russia has only completed its technical analysis through 2024. And is presently considering whether it wants to extend it through 2030, assessing the technical lifespan of the ISS. Several weeks ago, the head of Roscosmos, Dmitry Rogozin, spoke on Russian state news saying that Russia intends to commit to the International Space Station through 2024, but it reserves the flexibility to give its space partners at least 1 year's notice if it decides to leave earlier.
Zhanna, Russia appears to have a growing relationship with China's space program. What's going on between those two?
Yes, on February 4th, President Xi and President Putin signed a pact, a joint statement about entering a new era of international relations, including in outer space. And what we see here is a history of discussion between Russia and China in regards to lunar exploration, and also discussions on partnering to support China's Tiangong space station. It's also important to note that Russia is intending by 2025 to begin assembling Ross, the Russian orbital space station, its own independent space station. So we have China with its ambition to have the Tiangong space station, meaning Heavenly Palace, fully operational by the end of 2022, with support from Russia for Russian cosmonauts helping support deep space exploration aboard the Tiangong. And then we also see this international call for other partners to come and join China's initiative aboard the Tiangong to conduct deep space exploration and other scientific endeavors.
All right, Zhanna, well, we're out of time. There's a lot more to talk about, but thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.